we've been doing here at the online meditation is we've been taking a look at these 15 Sheilas, 15 qualities of positive behavior, good social character. If you practice these 15 things, you will gain a lot of friends, improve all of your relations, very much help you to sort of navigate the world with with a lot of positive energy. So today we are at number 7, and it is moral courage. So we'll talk about that. And as a way to illustrate moral courage, I want to present to you this wonderful, beautiful young man here. His name is E. And E is from Nepal. And like every other country in the world, Nepal has had its share of COVID-19 infections. And but the difference is that the government was actually trying to hide the infections and had also some money for responding. But out of the billions of dollars that they had, billions of it went unaccounted for. It just disappeared. And it became a public scandal that billions of dollars of this money was just not there. And then, soon people started to see that people in government started buying expensive carpets and brand new cars imported into the country with full, tariffs and taxes paid for. And it was clear that the money had been stolen by public officials themselves. And the people were outraged and they decided to take to the streets. And in particular, this young man, E, he was one of the people, one of the organizers doing this movement. And something curious about the policies there in Nepal is that the protesters are only allowed to protest for 2 hours. And on the first day of protests, they were supposed to protest until 12 p.m. And the police decided to shut down the protest. It went from 10 to 12, and the police decided to shut down the protest at 11:30 a.m. And so not only do they get just 2 hours, but on top of that, they were 30 minutes was taken from them. And it's hard to imagine because in most places of the world, a protest isn't determined by time. It can be as long as the people want. And the police should really be there to secure that freedom of speech right and allow the people to protest. So this is a little context to the situation in Nepal, but I want to now talk to you about him a little bit, of his background. He actually dropped out of high school when he was in 10th grade and lived such a fascinating life. He's now 25 years old. He's known for having done this trek on foot, where he's walked from one end of Nepal to the other end of Nepal, actually walking through the entire country in all of his travels on foot. And he did that 3 times. So he kind of gained some fame doing that. And he would, sleep in people's homes. And he said that he did it to find himself. And what a beautiful thing to do. I mean, imagine to have this sense of adventure that you're going to travel, see the world, or see your entire country on foot, and staying in people's homes. So, and then he's also been in other social movements before that have gotten national attention. And ultimately, his name is Ishan, but he changed it to just E, IIH. And in a moment, I will post some links so that you can follow up on this story. But he decided to change his name to E because he said that it's more universal. because every language of the world has this vowel sound of E. So he said, just call me E. I want to, I want my name to represent the universality of human language. And so that's why his name is E. And what he did recently is he organized a 12-day hunger strike in protest of the lack of response from the Nepali government to COVID-19. Imagine that, 12 days, him and three others, young people, of no water or food. Finally, around the eighth day, he had to be transported to the hospital where I think they gave him some sort of IV. They had to, somehow uh, get some kind of, it was, something non-negotiable to the doctors, some type of hydration. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on those details, but still not eating, not drinking, and it was successful in the fact that the prime minister came to see him and the other three at the hospital. But when the prime minister, around the seventh, eighth day, if I'm not mistaken, and when they came to see him, they chatted and they had the nerve to tell him, I think that you're misinformed. We're doing a lot of stuff. Here's what we're doing. But they were very adamant, and they have these 12, they had these 12 points. So right now I'm looking at my phone and I'm looking at his Instagram, and his Instagram, at the end I'll give you all the links, is here. It's easy, like easy. And I can just take a glance at some of the demands that they made. They had 12 demands. So number one is, expansion of testing, discontinuance of um, RDTs, rectification of quarantine strategy, transparency and accountability, protection for frontline health workers, dignity and relief for vulnerable migrants, the working class, and marginalized communities, optimum use of existing resources, increase medical capacity, clarify lockdown easing guidelines, implementation of court decisions. Sincere efforts must be made to promptly implement COVID-19 related Supreme Court decisions. So, in other words, when their demands are met, that they be implemented quickly. And to national and provincial members of parliament, local representatives, and other influential public office holders, that they please use the resources at their disposal for the expansion of testing and other improvements. So these demands, at first, the government was trying to say uh, that they would do maybe like some of these, or some of these partially, but he would not budge, and they would not budge, and they continued the hunger strike for 12 days until finally the government said, okay, we will agree to all of the demands. And one of the things that amazes me even more is not only that they got the government to agree to all the demands, but that E said, look, you have until Wednesday, we're talking this Wednesday, because this hunger strike ended, I think, a couple of days ago. And they said, look, if you don't begin the implementation as agreed, they signed an agreement, then by Wednesday, we are going to, this coming Wednesday, we're going to be striking again. So I really cannot think of a better modern day example of showing moral courage. And I'm really in awe of this young man for willing to sacrifice his life for the people, having the courage to, you know, confront the government, confront the system. I mean, as evidenced by the fact the police only allow you to protest for 2 hours. It's not a very, uh, um, must not be a very friendly environment for protest and dissent. So, you know, what is moral courage then? Moral courage is this external sense of duty and sacrifice that is actually a part and parcel to tantric lifestyle, tantric path. So in tantra, especially our notions of tantra that we practice here in Vistara Circle, we don't believe that you just walk the path of self-realization and you, let's say, want to go off to a cave, become and just meditate in the cave until you become the Buddha and enlighten, and then you're good. We believe that the same amount of energy that you implement into internal development, you should be putting into external development. So you don't only make yourself a better person, but you make the outside world also a better place. And what do you need to do that? You need moral courage. The courage to stand up when there is injustice, the courage to speak out, the courage to sacrifice even your life, if necessary, in order to make the world a better place, in order to relieve the suffering for others. So, and of course, you are only ever expected to do service and to exhibit moral courage according to your capacity. So it also doesn't mean that, you just go off and crash into some system of injustice, and if it's not something that you feel you can't do, but you could probably do something else. There's probably, for example, these 4 young people, they did the hunger strike because they were brave enough to do it. But there's thousands of other young people that were supporting them, this wonderful youth movement in Nepal. Like we see here with the Black Lives Matter protests, all of these young people protesting against police brutality. And in Nepal, the young people also organized themselves, but for a better response to COVID-19. And so not all of them were doing a hunger strike. Some of them were doing street theater. Some of them were doing relays around the strikers, where they were symbolically just running and running around, going in circles, and then somebody else would take over like a nonstop relay as another form of support and resistance and calling attention to this matter. So you see, you do something within your capacity to make the world a better place. And what I'd like to is for you all now to please type into the chat, what are ways that you exhibit moral courage? What are some examples that people in everyday life can exhibit moral courage, whether it's small or big? Okay. So I'll wait to hear your comments, to read your comments. And in the meantime, why don't I get to the announcements? So we'll get that out of the way. I have been making this announcement regularly that I'm a spiritual life coach. And if you're looking for a life coach, well, you can schedule an appointment with me to help with overcoming obstacles, improving meditation, implementing more of a yoga lifestyle into your life. Any way that you think I can help you, just reach out. Okay? And if I can help you, then I will. If not, then we'll be clear about that, and then you should find someone that specializes in something that is suited for your needs. Okay? Another thing is that, as you know, we have several online meditations a week. Tuesdays with Dada Nabanilananda, and then Wednesdays with Dada Vishvarupananda. Dada Nabanilananda does similar to what I do, um, the type of meditation that I'm teaching here. But Dada Vishwarupananda here on Wednesdays, he does, that's the one on the bottom. He does like exploratory, mystical meditations. So they're very nice, they're very sweet. Let's see. And then, um, yeah, I guess that's all I have here to show. Oh, and then this one too. And then, you meet me on Saturdays here, which is great. And then on Sundays, there's also silent meditation that we offer. And Radha hosts those. And there's also discussion on different tantric topics. And you can take attendance for any of these programs, and they can count toward your 8 visits to get that next meditation lesson. Okay? All right. Let's see now if there's any comments in the chat. So I see here Hitendra saying, the voice of dissent is the voice of a true patriot, Thomas Jefferson. Very nice. Give loving smiles to everyone, especially those who frown at you or disagree with you. Yeah, that's a form of service. It's also a form of moral courage. There's this story of Arjun Hawks is saying, wear a simple message that communicates truth. Very good. Like I know that you do when you wear a mask and you say here, perhaps happy, joyful, truthful. What I often hear you say, what you often share with us here. Yeah. So in other words, another thing that I'm thinking as you say that, Hitendra, and I know you say grateful, happy, joyful, thankful, right? And is like, let's say you can have a T-shirt that says that. Happy, joyful, grateful, thankful. And so we could exhibit moral courage too by wearing things. Some people show courage kind of in the opposite direction. Like if you wave a Confederate flag, if you put on if there's a swastika, a Nazi swastika on your clothes, those people it takes some courage too for those people to do that, because obviously that's completely unfashionable. But that is, courage toward destruction, courage toward negativity. So we need to show, obviously, the moral courage toward something, something helpful to protect those who are vulnerable, not to inflict more pain to those who are vulnerable. And then I'll tell you a quick story based on what Hitendra said, giving loving smiles to everyone. There was a story of a yoga teacher who went into a prison and was teaching yoga and giving some short talks. And he gave the prisoners a homework assignment. He said, for the rest of the week until I see you again, I want you to look at everybody that you see, and I want you to think in your mind, I love you. And all the prisoners laughed. They were like, yeah, right. I'm not going to do that, or that sounds crazy, or I can't love these people here, but one of the guys, he thought, okay, and he tried it. And so the next morning when he woke up, the meanest and baddest, roughest guard greeted him at his cell. And what did he do? He thought in his mind, I love you. and then he walked down the hall, and there was another one of like the meanest, baddest fellow prisoners, and looked at him in the eyes, and then did it again. Said, I love you. And just did it all day long with everybody. And then by the end of the day, the guards walked up to him and they said, hey, what's going on? You haven't been, there's been no fights. You haven't been, you're just kind of smiling here in the corner, like, what's happening? and of course he couldn't share his secret, but in his mind he just thought, I love you. And even the prisoners noticed, what the hell's wrong with this guy? But it made a huge difference because he was happy and he made others happy and they accepted him and they were They were happy to know him, happy to be around him. So sometimes if we can't wear something that says a positive message in our minds, we can have a positive message toward the outside world. And in our minds, look at everybody and say, ah, oh, there you are, Baba. Supreme consciousness. There you are. I can see you through these eyes. I can see you through this person. I can see that this person is you, actually. It's not that God is in the person, it's that the person is God. So that's an important distinction. Let's see. Karen is saying, wearing a mask in public situations, online activism, participation in our local indivisible political outreach, and giving blood during the pandemic are my ways to contribute. Very nice. Absolutely. We do have this form of expression through our social media. And if we can use social media to spread positive messages, I often wonder why did the Supreme create YouTube and Facebook? Yes, there's a lot of kind of negative things on there, but there's also so much positivity happening on there. So we should be utilizing these resources for positivity, to spread an important message, to be intentful with our expression as we post something and we say something every day to our friends in our community. And Karen is saying, yes, I wear t-shirts with positive messages and support. And I like that Karen said, she said, wear a mask. These days that's controversial. Some people are adamant about not wearing masks, but a mask is an expression of respect, care, consideration for others, that you don't want them to be sick, and you're also trying to protect yourself. So let's see. Let's look over here on Facebook, and Noelia said, as always, beautiful journey. Yes, that's right, Noelia. It is a beautiful journey. It is so beautiful that we can do this together, that you're not alone. We're not alone. I mean, we're never alone. There, because the Supreme is always there, is all there is, when we feel alone, we have to remember that I'm not alone. The Supreme is watching me right now. Sometimes I get the feeling that somebody's watching me. And sometimes I get the feeling like, let's say I get this random feeling like, ooh, is the government spying on me right now through this webcam? Right? Let's just say I get that thought. But then I say, oh, the government may or may not be spying on me, but I know who is. That Supreme One is watching me right now. And I'm completely naked to that Supreme One. All my thoughts, all my behavior, anything that I do, completely naked and exposed. And so we should try to be, to be like that, naked and be our best selves in front of that Supreme. And Marta's saying, Namaskar from Guatemala. Your name is Mahaprema. Beautiful name. Supreme love. Or great love. Bhavanam Kevalam. Let's see here. Thank you, Martha. It's so wonderful to have you here. And Kayla's saying, I recently went to a yoga fundraiser for racial justice. Excellent. Excellent. So that's a great way to show some moral courage against racism and do some activism. And then Minna is saying, integration peacefully, the brutality that I have been through. All right. So, that's another part of this too, that in Tantra, everything is external and internal, and every time we're balancing the two. And it takes courage also to go within and explore the dark corners of your soul. That's a quote by, a paraphrase of, I think, William Blake or something like that. It's like, it takes courage to be a soldier in the battlefield, but it takes more courage to examine the dark corners of your soul, I think is the quote, the paraphrasing of the whole quote. But yes, the I also believe that to do tantra takes a lot of inner courage, because a lot of people I've heard people say, oh, sometimes I'm meditating very deeply, I'm saying the mantra very intently, and I feel like I'm really there's just a thin veil separating me, my soul, between the supreme soul, and I get scared because what if I lose myself? What if I lose my identity? What'll happen if I merge with this supreme consciousness? Then what'll happen to me? And yeah, it's scary, right? You'll disappear. You know, your mind, your body will subside. You'll just be that supreme one. But perhaps a caterpillar is also afraid before they go into the cocoon. I mean, they've never done this before. What's going to happen when I go in that cocoon? I mean, is it going to be dark? Is it, am I going to make it? Is it worth it? I kind of like being a caterpillar. There's nothing wrong with this. But when they do it, and when they go in the cocoon, and then they come out a butterfly, it's like, yeah, of course it was worth it. And yes, it takes courage to go into the cocoon. It takes courage to go inside and be introspective. Um, and Minna saying to be a peaceful warrior. One of my favorite books, Way of the Peaceful Warrior. She says, rise strong, always taking care of other victims of the system and police. Absolutely. When we can, we should. And Noelia says, I can't wait to reconnect, friend. Me too. Me too. Um, Noelia and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing, have been discussing some activities we could be doing, whether it's retreats, more spiritual work, online work. If you have any ideas for programs, events to put on, then let me know as well.